You can go ahead.
Where does strength come from? Psalm 46:1, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Strength could be mental, physical, and spiritual. But the real question here is, where does your strength come from? If you look into past civilizations and look at what they believed in, you'll see that they were monotheistic. This means that they were believed in many different gods, with each of these gods controlling some different aspect of the world and the life that mortals lived in. If you take out your handout, you'll see that the very first one is the Greek god of strength, Hercules. Now, the Greeks are a very good example of these monotheistic civilizations. They believed in the Olympians, and the Olympians are 12 gods who rule over the lesser gods in the world that they created. Now, this god of strength is Hercules. He's depicted as having insurmountable strength, and upon death he became the god of strength. Now, the Romans also were monotheistic and also believed in what I like to think as a knockoff version of the Greek gods, because when they took over the Greeks, they basically implemented the Greeks' religion into their own. Greek mythology says that the Roman god of strength is Hercules. Hercules is also described as insurmountable strength, and it became the god of strength upon death. Now, does this sound like anyone? The Egyptian god of strength is Apis. The Egyptians have over 2,000 gods, and so honestly, it's very confusing in thinking of where they get their religion from. If you put your hand up. These civilizations all hoped that these gods would give them strength, but what they didn't count on was that their gods were fake, and so they couldn't get their strength unless they got it from our God, the true God. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. An ever-present help in trouble. This verse was not written by David, although some think that the Psalms were. This is confusing because although the Psalm 46 was written by sons of Korah, they do not know who exactly it was written by. The Psalm was written for Alamoth, or the Hebrew virgins, who have very nice voices. And a little trivia is that Martin Luther liked this verse, and upon having troubles with his preachings, he would tell him and his brothers to come let us sing the 46th Psalm. I chose this verse because God is with everyone through their hardships. God gives us strength, and he gives all who believe him strength. But not only with this verse, but many other verses show that this promise of strength. Psalm 37:5 is a very good example of another verse. Psalm 37:39. The salvation of the righteous comes from the Lord, but he is their stronghold in times of trouble. Again, the strength comes from God. So I believe that we can get strength in him. Jeremiah 16:19 is also a very good one. O Lord, my strength and my fortress, my refuge in time of distress. To you the nations will come from the ends of the earth and say, O, our fathers possessed nothing but false gods, worthless idols that did them no good. Now, this verse says that they believe that their false gods would give them strength. But since we believe in God, we know that he will give us strength. My last verse is Nahum 1:7. The Lord is good, a refuge in times of trouble. He cares for those who trust in him. Now, if you look at all these verses, you'll see that God is repeatedly said as being our refuge, as being our strength. So that all we have to do is believe in him. If the promises are not good enough, just look in the Bible at the stories, at how God's children used his strength to overcome certain defeats. Ruth, for example, King Ahasuerus was mad at his wife Vashti for not coming when she was called. So to cool off, he found a new wife, and he found Esther. Esther's cousin's name is a Jew, just like Esther. His name was Mordecai. He eventually found his way into the king's court, And so the other officials became jealous of him, and they wanted to overthrow him. So Esther stood up to the king and stood up to the officials and overcome the king and the officials with God's power. With help from God, Esther managed to stand up against Haman and claim her Jewish nature, and you must be asking yourself, why? So, unbelievers, they look to themselves for their strength, but we know that God is with us for our strength. And the conclusion is Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. This verse, like many others, shows that promise of God that He gives to the children who believe Him. Because of this, we know that God can do all things and that He will give us strength.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.